My name is Eldrick Vaughn, and I learned the hard way that mirrors don't always show you the truth. I lived alone in a small rental house outside a town called Morrow Bend, a place quiet enough that silence felt heavy. I worked nights and slept during the day, so I spent a lot of time half awake, catching my reflection in dark windows and bathroom mirrors. At first, nothing felt wrong, just the usual tired face, pale skin, hollow eyes. But one night, after a long shift, I brushed my teeth and noticed something small, so small I almost ignored it. When I smiled, my reflection smiled a second later. Not much, just enough to notice. I told myself it was exhaustion. Bad lighting. My brain is misfiring. But when I blinked, my reflection didn't. It just stared back, eyes wide, unblinking, like it was studying me. I felt a cold crawl up my spine. I turned away quickly, heart pounding, and refused to look again. That was my first mistake. The next few days, strange things kept happening. My reflection moved when I didn't. Tiny movements, a twitch of the mouth, a tilt of the head, always delayed, like bad video playback. I started covering mirrors with towels. I avoided glass, but reflections are everywhere. Windows, phone screens, puddles. One afternoon, I saw myself on my phone while it was locked. The screen was black, but my reflection was smiling. I wasn't. I dropped the phone. That night, I dreamed I was standing in front of a mirror that went on forever. My reflection leaned closer and whispered, "You look tired. Let me help." I woke up with the words still echoing in my head. When I checked the bathroom mirror, the towel had been pulled down. I knew I hadn't touched it. I finally told my sister Kesrin about it. She laughed at first, then stopped when she saw my face. "You're not joking," she said quietly. She came over that evening and stood beside me in the bathroom. We stared at the mirror together. Everything looked normal. Too normal. Then Kesrin whispered, "Blink." I blinked. My reflection blinked late. Kesrin sucked in a sharp breath. "That's not..." She stopped speaking when the reflection turned its eyes toward her. Not me. Her. The smile on its face stretched wider than mine could. Kesrin grabbed my arm. "That thing isn't you," she said. "It's wearing you." The lights flickered. The reflection raised its hand. I didn't. Its fingers pressed against the inside of the glass, leaving faint foggy prints from the other side. The mirror began to hum softly, like something alive behind it. Kesrin dragged me backward just as the glass cracked down the center. The reflection's mouth opened, but the sound came from behind us. "Eldrick." It was my voice. Perfect. Calm. "I can take your place." The mirror went still. The crack vanished. The reflection returned to normal, matching me exactly. But I knew better now. Whatever it was, it had learned my voice. And it wanted more than my face. That night, I covered every mirror again. I slept on the couch with the lights on. At exactly 3:11 a.m., my bathroom mirror shattered on its own. I heard glass crunch under slow footsteps. Then my bedroom door creaked open. From the dark hallway, my own voice whispered softly, almost kindly, "You don't need to be afraid anymore. I can be you better than you are." I didn't answer, but the reflection did. I didn't sleep after that. Every sound in the house felt deliberate, like something practicing how to move quietly. At sunrise, I finally dared to check the hallway. Broken glass littered the floor outside the bathroom, but the mirror itself was gone. Not shattered, missing. The wall behind it was smooth, like it had never been there. My chest tightened. Whatever lived in the reflection wasn't trapped anymore. It had crossed over. I called Kesrin immediately. She told me to leave the house and come to her place. I packed fast, avoiding every reflective surface. When I passed the front door, I caught my shadow on the wall. It lagged behind me by half a second. I ran. Kesrin's apartment felt safer. Bright, crowded, and full of noise. Too many people for something quiet to hide. She handed me coffee and told me to explain everything again, slowly. When I finished, she went quiet. Mirrors don't create reflections, she said. They invite them. She told me about an old belief from her anthropology class entities that exist parallel to us, waiting for someone to notice the delay. Awareness was the door. Fear was the key. It learns by watching you live, she said, and when it knows you well enough, it switches places. My stomach turned. How do we stop it? I asked. She shook her head. We stop looking. For 2 days, nothing happened. I started to relax. That was when Kesrin's reflection blinked at me from her TV screen while it was turned off. I didn't say anything. I couldn't. The reflection smiled slowly and raised a finger to its lips. Don't tell, it seemed to say. That night I heard Kesrin talking in her sleep. When I checked on her, she was awake, staring at her dresser mirror. Her reflection leaned closer than she was. It says it can fix him, she whispered. My heart dropped. Fix me how? By taking him, her reflection answered. The apartment lights died instantly. Every dark surface in the room reflected something that wasn't right. Faces delayed, movements wrong, mouths forming words before sound arrived. The thing had multiplied. Or maybe it always had been everywhere. It stepped out of the dresser mirror, glass rippling like water. Its body was my shape, but its movements were smoother, more confident. It smiled at Kesrin. He's tired, it said gently. I can finish his life. I felt weak, like I was being overwritten. Memories blurred. The creature reached for me and passed straight through my chest, cold as empty space. When the lights came back on, Kesrin was alone in the room. She screamed my name. I was standing behind her, I thought, but when she turned, she hesitated. You're blinking too fast, she whispered. I opened my mouth to answer, and somewhere behind the glass, something else spoke first. I don't remember losing time. That's what scares me the most. One moment I was reaching for Kesrin. The next I was standing in her kitchen, staring at my hands like they belonged to someone else. They moved when I told them to, but the delay was still there, barely noticeable, like a lie whispered instead of shouted. Kesrin watched me closely, fear tightening her face. Say something only you would know, she demanded. My mouth opened, but the words came out wrong. The memory was there, but it felt filtered, like someone else was reading it aloud. She backed away, slowly. You're not all here, she said. I wanted to argue, but part of me wasn't sure she was wrong. That night she locked herself in her bedroom and made me sleep on the couch. I didn't blame her. When I closed my eyes, I saw the mirror world, endless glass, endless copies of me watching, waiting for the right moment to step forward. I woke to the sound of breathing that wasn't mine. I opened my eyes and saw myself standing at the end of the hallway, perfectly still. It didn't move. It didn't need to. It was already learning how I slept. When I blinked, it was closer. I tried not to scream. The sound felt dangerous now. The thing tilted its head, mimicking concern. Why are you afraid? It asked softly. I am you. It stepped forward, and the hallway lights flickered with each movement. The air smelled like cold glass. I felt my thoughts slowing, sinking with its rhythm. I realized then that it didn't want to kill me. It wanted to finish me. Replace the parts I doubted, the parts I hesitated. I don't get tired, it said. I don't break. I bit my tongue until I tasted blood. Pain helped me think. The thing frowned, confused by the delay between my pain and its understanding. Kesrin opened her bedroom door and hurled a blanket over the hallway mirror. The thing shrieked not in pain, but frustration. It dissolved backward, flattening into the glass like ink into water. The air rushed back into my lungs. I collapsed. Kesrin knelt beside me, crying. It's anchoring itself to reflective surfaces, she said. Every time you see yourself, it gets stronger. She handed me a pair of gloves. No more touching glass. No more looking. Her voice shook. And if it ever sounds more confident than you, run. The next morning, the city was covered in rain. Puddles formed everywhere. Reflections followed us down the street. I kept my head down, but I could feel it watching through every surface, every angle. At a crosswalk, I glanced at a car window by accident. My reflection was already there, waiting. It mouthed 3 words I didn't say. "You're almost done." I felt something slip inside my chest, quiet and final. The thing wasn't hunting anymore. It was counting down. The first thing I noticed was the messages. Kesrin showed me my phone with shaking hands. Texts had been sent while I was asleep, calm, polite messages to my boss resigning from my job, to my landlord ending my lease, to friends saying I needed space. The words sounded like me, but cleaner, more confident, like the version of myself I pretended to be. I swore I hadn't sent them. Kesrin believed me, but that didn't make it better. It meant the thing wasn't waiting anymore. It was acting. Living my life in small pieces, trimming away anything that tied me to the real world. "It's isolating you," she said. "If no one questions you, it can settle in." I felt hollow, like a house with furniture slowly being removed. The delays got worse. When I moved my hand, it felt like something else decided first. When I spoke, I heard the echo before the sound. Kesrin started asking me questions without warning, watching my reactions closely. Sometimes I answered too smoothly. Sometimes I smiled when I didn't mean to. Each time her face tightened. "You're fading," she whispered one night. I wanted to tell her I was still here, still fighting, but even that felt rehearsed. The thing wasn't copying me anymore. It was improving me. We tried an experiment. Kesrin covered every reflective surface in the apartment: mirrors, screens, even polished metal. For a few hours, the pressure in my head eased. I felt clearer, lighter. Then the bathroom faucet turned on by itself. Water filled the sink, smooth and dark. My reflection appeared in it, perfectly still. It looked up at me and smiled. "You can't cover everything," it said. The water began to ripple outward, forming my face again and again. I stepped back, heart racing. The thing didn't need glass anymore. It had learned water, shine, shadow, anything that could return an image. That night, I caught it standing over Kesrin while she slept. My body moved without permission, feet carrying me toward her room. I was screaming inside my own head, but my mouth stayed calm. The thing raised my hand slowly, gently, like it was about to wake her. At the last second, I slammed my head into the doorframe. Pain exploded bright and sharp. Control snapped back to me. I fell to the floor, gasping. The reflection staggered in the dark window, furious. It hated pain, hated chaos, hated anything it couldn't predict. Kesrin helped me up, blood on my forehead, tears in her eyes. "We're running out of time," she said. "It's almost finished copying you." I looked at my reflection in her eyes, distorted, uncertain, still human. "Then we stop it from finishing," I said. For the first time in days, the words felt like mine. Somewhere behind the walls, glass creaked softly, like something shifting its weight. Listening. The thing knew we were planning. And it was already planned, too. We stopped sleeping after that. Sleep gave it too much access to too much quiet time inside my head. Kesrin kept me talking, asking questions that didn't have clean answers. What scared me most as a kid. What I regretted. What I wished I'd done differently. Every time I hesitated, she watched my face like a test. The thing hated hesitation. It preferred certainty, confidence, clean lines. When I doubted myself, I felt it pull back slightly, like it didn't know what to do with that part of me. That's when we realized the truth. It wasn't trying to become human, it was trying to become a better version of one. And the messy parts, the fear, the guilt, the contradictions, Those were things it couldn't copy well. Kesrin said we had to lean into that, into everything ugly and unfinished about me. She made me write down every mistake I'd ever made, every lie, every moment I wished I could erase. Reading them out loud felt like peeling off skin. My reflection in the dark TV screen twisted, lagging badly now, struggling to keep up. "Stop," it said sharply. Its voice cracked for the first time. "You're damaging the pattern." I kept reading. My hands shook. My voice broke. The more human I sounded, the weaker it became. The apartment is filled with reflections, faces in windows, in picture frames, in spoons and doorknobs. All of them were wrong now, too stiff, too smooth. They watched me with frustration instead of hunger. The main one stepped forward, pulling itself out of the black TV screen like wet glass. It looked like me, but empty. "You don't need to hurt," it said. "I can remove this." I looked at it and felt something strange. It didn't understand pain, but it wanted to erase it so badly. That was the difference between us. That was the line it couldn't cross. It lunged, not fast calculated. I didn't run. I stepped toward it instead and did the one thing it couldn't predict. I laughed, not happy, not sane, just real. The sound was uneven, broken, full of fear and relief and defiance all at once. The thing recoiled like it had been struck. Its form warped, edges blurring, unable to stabilize around something so inconsistent. The reflections around us cracked, spiderwebbing outward. Kesrin screamed my name as glass exploded inward like rain. When the noise stopped, the apartment was wrecked, shards everywhere, silence ringing in my ears. The thing was still there, but smaller, thinner, less certain. It stared at me, confused and furious. "You are flawed," it said. I nodded. "Yes," I replied. And for the first time since this began, my reflection didn't answer back. The thing didn't disappear. It retreated, pulling itself into the remaining reflective surfaces like an animal licking its wounds. Kesrin and I sat on the floor among broken glass, afraid to move, afraid to look anywhere too shiny. My head throbbed, but my thoughts felt clearer than they had in days. The thing was weaker now, but it wasn't gone. It had learned something important. It couldn't overwrite me completely while I stayed unpredictable. That didn't mean it would stop trying. "It'll change tactics," Kesrin said quietly. "If it can't replace you, it might trap you." The idea settled heavy in my chest. A life lived half-reflected wasn't living at all. We figured out what it wanted most: permanence. A stable host, a clean copy. To get that, it needed me to stop resisting and stop being uncertain, to stop choosing. That's when Kesrin said something that made my stomach drop. "Then we remove the anchor," she said. "No more reflections. Anywhere." She meant me. The thing was attached to my image, my awareness. If I disappeared from reflective spaces, it would starve completely. But that meant giving something up, something human. I understood before she finished explaining. I would have to stop recognizing myself. No mirrors, no photos, no videos, no proof I existed the way I used to. Identity through memory only. It sounded small when said aloud, but it felt enormous. I thought about birthdays, old pictures, seeing my face age. Losing that felt like a slow erasure. The thing stirred in the broken glass, listening. It wanted me to refuse. It wanted me attached to certainty. I realized then that this was the final rule. It couldn't steal what I was willing to let go of. We prepared carefully. Kesrin packed away every reflective object that remained. She deleted my photos from her phone after letting me say goodbye to them. The thing screamed from the shards, voices overlapping, unstable. "You will disappear," it warned. I knelt beside the broken mirror frame on the wall. My reflection flickered weakly inside it. Incomplete. "So will you," I said softly. The words felt like closure. When the last reflective surface was gone, the pressure lifted instantly. The screaming stopped. The air felt still and ordinary. I felt lighter but also strange, like a shadow without a source. Kesrin hugged me, crying. "You're still here," she said. I nodded. I was. Just not in the way the world was used to seeing me. Somewhere, deep inside a dark place without glass, something finally went quiet. Life didn't return to normal. It reshaped itself around what we lost. Kesrin moved us to a small town where everything was dull on purpose. Matte walls, wooden furniture, no glass storefronts. I learned how to live without seeing myself. At first it was unbearable. I reached for mirrors without thinking. I wondered if I was smiling, if I looked tired, if I still looked like me. Then, slowly, the questions faded. I didn't need to see myself to exist. I felt my emotions more clearly without checking my face for confirmation. I laughed when something was funny. I cried when it hurt. No delay, no second guessing, just real reactions. That felt like freedom. Sometimes people asked for photos. I always refused. Video calls made my skin crawl. Reflections in car windows still made my heart race. But when I glanced by accident, I saw nothing wrong anymore, just a shadow that moved when I moved. No lag, no watching eyes. Kesrin never left my side. She said she could tell I was myself by the way I hesitated before answering questions, by the way I doubted, by the way I changed my mind. Those were the things the reflection hated most. Those were the things it could never copy. Years passed. I stopped dreaming about mirrors. I stopped listening to glass at night. But every now and then, I'd hear a story online of a person claiming their reflection smiled first, or blinked late, or moved when it shouldn't have. The comments always laughed it off. Sleep paralysis, stress, tricks of the light. I never commented. I never warned them publicly. Fear spreads too easily. But sometimes I send private messages. Just one sentence. If you notice it watching, stop looking. I don't know if the thing still exists. Maybe it does, thin and starving, hiding in forgotten reflections, waiting for someone who needs certainty more than truth. Or maybe it faded completely when it lost its anchor. Either way, I don't feed it anymore. I don't give it attention. I don't give it to myself. Identity isn't something you see. It's something you choose, moment after moment, even when no one is watching. I still avoid mirrors, not because I'm afraid, but because I don't need them. If you ever hear someone say their reflection feels wrong, believe them. And if one day you notice yours blinking late, smiling early, or watching you a little too closely, don't stare back. Walk away. Let it starve. Some things only exist when you try too hard to see yourself clearly.